teaching me this stuff and answered any of my questions. It's just a really positive experience.
What I think that parents could benefit with the program is just having someone here for you, especially for first-time parents. It can be very isolating and it can be very lonely, and having the home visitor changes that and it feels very good.
For me, having a home visitor is like having a second mom there.
A lot has changed. I'm definitely more knowledgeable taking care of her, and I know that anytime I need advice or help from somebody, I can just call her.
It's just that little positive nudge to, hey, I'm noticing something, let's find a way how to change it. And she's like, you know what, Amanda, let's pick you up, dust you off, and let's go over to, see about either getting your driver's license or seeing about, going to college, see if we can start something for you.
It's totally worth it. Like, even if you're on the fence at first, you don't feel like having a stranger coming in your house and teaching you about your little one, do it anyway. You get the help that you need. You get professional advice on things you may not know about your child. The fact that the program has no fees or anything, it's all totally free, is fantastic.
Yo creo que si conozco a alguien que está próxima a ser mamá, lo primero que haría sería recomendarle el programa, porque te entrega mucho apoyo, mucha información y más que nada como apoyo emocional, una guía, te da una visión diferente de cómo es ser papá aquí, quizás en este país.
Sí, pues es un bonito programa, porque pues es buena persona la señora y los ha atendido muy bien.
Pensé que nada más iba a ser un programa de orientación quizás para los nuevos padres, pero creo que nos llevamos una linda sorpresa porque Gaby es una persona muy cercana a nosotros, es como parte de nuestra familia, siempre ha estado dispuesta a ayudarnos y a escucharnos con nuestras dudas sobre la paternidad, y en nuestro caso, que estamos solos en este país, ha sido como de mucha ayuda.
Es un gran apoyo para nuevos padres, y más aún si están en nuestra situación, que somos extranjeros, que nuestra familia y amigos, como dice Carla, están en otro país, lejos. Entonces sí, viene muy bien el programa para apoyarse tanto emocional y como anímicamente, y bueno, en varios aspectos del programa que nos ayuda a seguir adelante con esta nueva aventura.
Te ayuda como a ver los distintos recursos que tiene la comunidad para nuevos papás, entonces creo que es de gran ayuda.
No queda mucho que agregar, pero lo veo de la misma forma.
Que hemos aprendido algunas cosas aquí y pues los han ayudado, como este programa los ha ayudado para seguir creciendo a la bebé, como con buenos consejos y así.
Sí, y creo que también ha sido muy importante el tema de apoyarnos con el libro y saber qué actividades hacer con Máximo de acuerdo a su edad, cómo estimularlo, cómo cuidarlo de los peligros de la casa, como cosas que uno como papá nuevo no conoce, claro.
Pues a mí me gustaría que lo siguiéramos visitando aquí en la biblioteca.
And we are live.
We're live? Hey. Okay, no worries. Yeah. Good morning. I'm going to call to order today's meeting of the Planning Commission. Today's meeting is a hybrid meeting of the Planning Commission with participants both in person and digitally. The public may participate digitally in meetings by sending comments to pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.gov, or orally via telecomment in lieu of personal attendance. All public comment will be made available to the commissioners, staff, and the general public after processing by staff, and can be viewed as attachments to this meeting agenda on the Planning Commission agenda page. To submit public comments via telecomment, please use the telecomment form found at mendocinocounty.gov/government/planning-building-services/meeting-agendas. Mr. Clerk, could you please conduct the roll call?
Commissioner Babini,
Here.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Commissioner Wiedemann,
Here.
Sheriff Holland,
Here.
and Commissioner Purnell is absent by prearrangement.
Thank you very much. Do we have determination of legal notice?
All matters besides 6B have been properly noticed, and 6B will be heard at a future Planning Commission meeting.
Great, thank you very much. Director's report. Director, do we have anything today?
Thank you. Julia Krog, Planning and Building Services Director. I have a brief report for you today, primarily around our local coastal program update, which is the comprehensive grant that we received for the LCP update from the Coastal Commission. At the board meeting on February 27th, 2024, the Board of Supervisors approved 3 different contracts for us to begin work on the technical studies for that. And so that includes the State Route 1 traffic highway capacity study, also the visual resources and archaeological resources study, and then lastly, the coastal groundwater study. The next contract that will be coming forward is regarding the biological resources and natural resources work. So with that, that concludes my director's report, and I'm available for any questions.
Great. Any commissioners have any questions?
So I saw that you're doing a presentation on the coast about the inland or the coastal thing. And I was wondering if you could, the next time we meet, present to us so that we're aware of what's going on in the same way. Is that possible?
I think that's certainly possible. We could add that. I think our next meeting is going to be April 4th. And so I will add that to that agenda.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And I had a question. Who got the Highway 1 capacity study?
TJKM.
TJKM.
They actually have done prior transportation studies for the county, so it's beneficial that they have that historical knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on. Agenda item number 4, matters from the public expression. Members of the public are welcome to address the Planning Commission on items not listed on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is prohibited by law from taking action on matters not on the agenda. Individuals wishing to address the Planning Commission under matters from the public may do so via email or Zoom. For information on each of these methods, call the Planning and Building Department at 707-234-6650 or visit mendocinocounty.gov/government/planning-building-services/meeting-agendas. All correspondence will be attached to the item and made available online on the Planning Commission agenda page. If any members of the public logged into the Zoom meeting wish to speak under public expression and have not completed the telecomment form, please use the raise hand feature to allow staff to add you to the meeting. Do we have any requests for telecomment under public expression?
I have a David A. on Zoom.
All right, can you put him through? Good morning, David A. Can you hear us?
Good morning.
Great.
Good morning, Commission. Good morning, Director.
You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hey, I would like to address what I consider to be a big problem with county zoning as it relates to the cannabis prohibition district. I've called in many times to the board, and now I'm beginning to call in to the Planning Commission because it really starts with you as you forward your yes or no votes, which I believe the no votes have never existed for cannabis prohibition as far as the commission is concerned. The cannabis prohibition districts, I think, should be discarded because they are poorly designed and really not well suited to this kind of legislation. The legislative act of zoning should never be done arbitrarily or irrationally. And the last two petitions that have come forward from Redwood Valley and Rocktree have really been shown to be arbitrary and irrational. And that needs to change. The Rocktree petitioners had no standing whatsoever. They were already banned in their zoning, and yet they were given the chance to move forward for, I guess, a double up on prohibition zoning, which really doesn't make any sense. The Redwood Valley people had no standing because they had no ability to show that they were actually being negatively affected. We had people from Redwood Valley stand up and say into a microphone at meetings that they were afraid that if commercial cannabis came into their neighborhood, the people who worked for the commercial cannabis operations wouldn't be the type of people who would help out at their local parade. This is not how we do zoning in this county. Those types of requests and demands for prohibitive zoning based on feelings, fears, prejudice, stereotypes, and myths should not be allowed to move forward. There needs to be a method by which people are screened for realistic concerns and realistic proof of affect if they are going to move forward. And it needs to start at the very beginning, really at the planning desk. People should be required to show actual standing before taxpayer money is used to move them forward and further down the line. It is expensive. The costs that they pay for mapping, etc., does not cover the actual cost to taxpayers. Charging for staff time only does not keep the lights on, does not keep the bathrooms clean in county facilities. We need to begin to look at zoning, especially prohibitive zoning, where people are...
Mr. A?
Yes.
That is your time. Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciated.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else on Zoom?
I have no other members of the public with their hand raised on Zoom.
All right. And do we have any telecomment forms submitted?
I don't have any.
Okay, great. Any members of the public wishing to speak in public expression? All right, seeing just chagrin looks in the audience, I'll move on. All right, item number 5, the consent calendar. Any commissioners have any revisions or comments regarding the minutes that are on the consent calendar? I will entertain a motion then. Oh, sorry, public comment. Thank you. All right, seeing no public comment, I will invite a motion.
I make a motion to adopt the minutes.
I'll second.
All right. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Babini,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiedemann,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Chair Pollen.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Agenda item 6A, regular calendar. This is item UR_2023-0007, T-Mobile West LLC, renewal of a use permit entitled U_2010-0010 to allow an existing cellular antenna facility to remain. The renewal would be granted for a 10-year period. I'll now open the public hearing. Has there been any correspondence or telephone calls received on this item?
Just the memo that's been attached to the item online.
Okay.
And I provided each of you a copy of it.
Yes, thank you very much. All right. I will now ask the staff for their presentation on this item.
Good morning, planning commissioners, county staff, and the public. Project planner Stephen Schweitzer here. As the chair noted, this is a renewal of use permit 2010-0010 for an existing cellular facility to remain, and this extension would be granted for a 10-year period. The governing use permit was approved back in July 21st in 2011 for the construction of a 120-foot tall lattice structure and equipment building within a 1,200 square foot leased area on the host parcel located at 66250 Highway 271 in Leggett. Many of you might know this host parcel as it boasts the drive-through tree attraction, and the said project site location is approximately 700 feet southeast of this said drive-through tree. As detailed in the staff report, the existing tower since 2011 has sustained some minor alterations that were captured by previous administrative permits and their associated building permits for antenna modifications and the installation of a generator. Application materials demonstrate that the existing facility would remain unmanned and operated by T-Mobile for 24 hours a day, seven days a week. Some notable site characteristics and project components of the project site is situated approximately 1,040 feet east of the South Fork of the Ill River, and the nearest off-site residences from the said tower are 1,000 feet to the north and 1,300 feet to the southeast. Access would continue to be provided by a private driveway that was previously constructed for a timber harvest operation that extends from State Route 271 to the project site. Considering the project request does not propose any modifications to the existing facility and is simply for a 10-year extension to continue the operation of the communication facility, staff has determined that the project is categorically exempt pursuant to Section 15301 of CEQA regulations for existing facilities. It is worth noting that there was a memorandum prepared for the project after staff identified two references, one within the staff report and one within the resolution, referencing the tower as 160 feet tall when it's actually 120 feet tall. So as provided in the memo and detailed in the red line resolution for the Commission's review today, those changes have been altered. So in short, staff is recommending approval as amended by the red line resolution, and the application has been provided, staff report and resolution to the applicant for their review and consideration, and they've been made aware of the conditions of approval. And with that, I can entertain any questions that the commissioners may have.
Thank you. Any questions from any commissioners? All right. Is the applicant available to speak on this?
Hi, good morning. My name is Ruth Segura. Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you very much for being
Okay,
here.
thank you. I just wanted to double check that. I'm with Network Connect and I'm on behalf of T-Mobile. We are representing the application, and after reviewing the staff report, we agree with the findings of the report and accept the conditions of approval in Exhibit A.
All right. Anything else?
No, that's all we have. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant from the commission? Okay. I will now invite any public comments on this item. Any members of the public on Zoom wishing to speak?
No members of the public on Zoom.
Thank you. Any members of the public in person wishing to speak on this item? Okay. I will close the public comment then. Staff, do you have any final remarks?
I'm available for any questions that the commissioners may have.
Thank you. Exhausted that. All right. Any final remarks from the applicant? Okay. And no additional questions or comments from any of the commission? All right. I'll close the public hearing on this matter.
Oh, excuse me. It looks like Ruth raised her hand again.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Ms. Segura?
Again, yes, I just wanted to let you know that no, we don't have any additional public remarks.
Great. Thanks for clarifying that. All right. The matter is now before the commission. Public comment is no longer permitted. Any discussion, or I will invite a motion? Okay, well, I'll invite a motion then.
I make a motion to approve the resolution of the Planning Commission, County of Mendocino, State of California, granting renewal of a use permit for an existing wireless communications facility. Hang on, sorry. I have the wrong thing up. Sorry. Renewal of the use permit U_2010-0010 to allow an existing cellular antenna facility to remain. Is that the right one too? Okay. I think I have the wrong one up. Pass. Hang on, pass. I'm trying to find the right one. I had the wrong
I'll make
format.
a motion to approve UR_2023-0007- T-Mobile West LLC. Resolution of the Planning Commission, County of Mendocino, State of California, granting renewal of a use permit for an existing wireless communication facilities with the noted change of 120-foot tall tower.
And I'd love to second that and also just maybe make a request of staff. And that is, this requirement seems to be a legacy of many years ago when people were really worried about cell towers. And I think that worry has sort of diminished, the word I can use. So maybe when you redo the zoning ordinance, you could retroactively, I don't know if you can do this, but something for the attorney to consider, make all of these temporary use permits permanent and release us from this onerous task that drags on staff's morale.
And that was a second in there as well, correct? Okay, great. All right, I'll invite a roll call vote then.
Commissioner Jones? Commissioner
Yes.
Wiedemann?
Yes.
Commissioner Bebini?
Yes.
Chair Pollen?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you to staff for that onerous task. All right, agenda item 6B on the regular calendar was not properly noticed. So unfortunately that has been taken off of our agenda and it will be heard at a future planning commission meeting at a date not yet certain, if I'm correct on the timing. Is that correct? We don't have a date for that one yet.
It's going to be renoticed. At this point, it'll likely be in April.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, moving on then. Item number 6C on the regular calendar. This is item number U_2023-0011, Reuben Childs. This is a major use permit to use an existing single-family residence as a short-term rental per Mendocino County Code 20.164.015 L, room and board. I'll open the public hearing at this point. Has there been any correspondence or telephone calls received on this item?
Yeah, everything's been posted online, and there is a memo that was submitted also.
All right, thank you very much. And I'll now ask for staff presentation on this item.
Oh, hello.
Hello. And you do have to get right up on your mic so that
Okay.
we can hear you, and especially so the people not in the room can hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? No?
Oh yeah, we got you.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Shelby Miller, and I am the project planner for use permit 2023-0011. Okay, as previously mentioned, the applicant is requesting a major use permit to allow for the use of their 3-bedroom single-family residence as a short-term rental. The applicant previously stated that the property also contains an accessory dwelling unit on site, which would be rented on a long-term basis. The property is located approximately 4 miles northeast of the Fort Bragg City Center, and also east of the coastal zone boundary. The parcel is assessed at approximately 1.1 acres and zoned rural residential. The single-family residence and the ADU is principally permitted within this designation. The project is also categorically exempt under CEQA existing facilities. As you can see on this map here, the property is approximately 1,000 feet from the closest publicly maintained road, which is Mill Creek Drive, and it intersects with O'Bailey Drive here. And then this picture also shows where the private driveway meets the private road, or private driveway meets the private road. And there are 2 off-street parking garages on the parcel, and additional parking is available in the driveway. There is an on-site well and 2 septic tanks. One is for the ADU, and the other septic tank is for the residence, which holds a capacity for 3 bedrooms. The private road is maintained by property owners, including the applicant, and is funded by donations. The use of the single-family residence as a short-term rental not located on a publicly maintained road is permitted upon the issuance of a major use permit. And in addition, a memo dated October 7th, 2010, the Mendocino County Planning Director determined that entire home short-term rentals or vacation home rentals were classified as room and board under the listed zoning code right here. Short-term rentals are not viewed as motels or hotels, as they simply involved the rental of the private residence and shall be treated as a residential accessory use. Oh, I wanted to note as well that all of the pictures used are from the property itself. And as detailed in the staff report, the project is consistent with the use permit findings. The short-term use of the single-family residence shall be subordinate to the long-term residential use of the ADU. And if approved, the major use permit would be in conformity with the general plan as well. The property has adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities. And conditions of approval would be included to ensure, oops, go back. Sorry. We're gonna go back to the end. Yeah, conditions of approval would be intended to ensure that the use would not be detrimental to the neighborhood or general welfare of the county. As conditioned, it is required that the residence is used as a short-term rental, and there is no camping allowed, no campfires, and loud noises shall be limited to the hours of 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. And parking shall only be parking shall only be in designated parking spaces, and no parking on O'Bailey Drive. And staff is recommending approval, and this concludes my presentation. I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff?
You know what my 2 questions are going to be. So I have 2 questions about the application itself, and that is in the application itself, which, hang on, I'll find it in the document. Oh, well, it was in here. I had it before. The applicant indicates that they wanted to rent both units out, or at least it's not clear what they're saying, because they say that both units are in the application. And in the conditions, you don't have in there as a condition that the ADU would not be rented out for a short-term rental. I think that would need to be added. So that's one of my concerns. And then the map for the project actually doesn't show the ADU as an existing structure. It shows it as a proposed structure. But when I look on Google Earth, obviously it is an existing structure. So I don't know, just some clarity on those 2 questions would be awesome.
So as you can see, this is the Google Map version of the property. The ADU is actually in this area. It's attached to a garage here. And of course, Russ will take over for the second question.
Good morning, Russ Ford, Senior Planner. The site plan that they submitted was from the building permit in 2007, so it would have been nice to have an updated one, but the garage is existing. With regard to the rental of both units, accessory dwelling units and short-term rentals need to be subordinate to the primary use, which is in this case residential. Staff had a hard time making findings that using both of those for short-term rentals was going to meet that requirement. So with conversations with the applicant, they agreed to limit the short-term rental to just the single-family residence, and then use the other one as a long-term rental. That's captured in the use permit finding 6A, but we can certainly add an additional condition if you'd prefer.
It is, condition 7 does have overnight occupancy for paying guests is restricted to the said single-family residence. I mean, I don't know if that's enough to.
And Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, number 13 does as well. The utilization of the ADU or mother-in-law unit for short-term rentals is strictly prohibited.
Right. Cool, thank you.
Any other commissioners with questions?
That was my understanding, that the ADU was long-term rent, long-term living, and the large house was a vacation rental.
Bobby, do you have any?
I don't have any questions. I know that we did receive comment for this, a written comment, and there were concerns about enforcement of the conditions of approval. And I wasn't sure if staff had any comment on that if there's concerns by neighboring parcel owners, what their processes might be if they have concerns about the enforcement of those conditions.
Sure, and that's all kind of captured through existing code enforcement procedures. It's complaint driven. If it turns out that they're in violation of the terms of the use permit, that can be revoked. With regard to the neighboring property applying and being denied, it looks like they received an estimate a couple of years ago, but there was never actually an application submitted.
Commissioner Weaven?
I have one more thing. I'm not sure how long the private road is from the county maintained road. Is there fire turnouts? It used to be something about every 300 feet you needed a turnout for a fire truck or an oncoming vehicle so a fire truck could pass. Do we have anything on that? That's because it is I see that we have a gated drive or fenced drive. So I'm not sure if it's over 1,000 feet, but my understanding from, I think it was, I want to say CDF and or Department of Transportation, every 300 feet, a turnout. Has that been addressed?
The only comments I received from CAL FIRE were addressing like campfire conditions of approval. And I think one other is because it is near a timberland zoning area. And I think it was just saying that if you were to remove any of the trees, you'd need a permit. It didn't have any other comments regarding the 300 feet to turnout.
I'll just go back. How long is that driveway or the private road to the entry to the property? Approximately.
From Mill Creek Drive right here to the property, it's roughly 1,000 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, no worries.
Oh, we're talking about fire. In the presentation, I thought I heard you said that fires would not be permitted, and there was a little no fire logo up there. But I'm noting in the conditions that fires are permitted within a fire ring, which is accurate.
Yes, you are correct. I'm saying like no fires outside of the ring. You're right.
Okay.
So are they striking the fire?
Well, I don't know. I'm not hearing any. I'm saying the conditions that they're written right now is that fires would be allowed inside of designated fire pit rings as long as there's a 10-foot circumference of clearance of bare mineral soil around them. Is that correct?
Yes, and that was also CAL FIRE's recommendation.
Any other questions? Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, staff. Let's see. Is the applicant available to speak on this?
There are no members of the public attending on Zoom.
Okay, and no one here in person? All right, thank you very much. Well, then the commissioners can't ask the applicant any questions. Public comment, is there any public comment on this item?
No members of the public attending on Zoom for public comment.
In the audience? All right. Well, then any final remarks from staff?
No, sorry.
A lot of buttons over there. All right. Any final remarks from the applicant? I don't think so. Any additional questions or comments from the commission?
Can we talk with each other?
You mean in front of everyone?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So I had a couple of things, and I don't know if it's a big deal or not, but special condition 11, loud noises, is just a very subjective term. And so I was wondering if maybe we could say no amplified sound will be permitted.
Can we cup our hands?
I think the county has a decibel ordinance. Am I not right?
The county has exterior noise limit standards within the general plan.
And do those address amplified sound?
Yes.
Okay.
During certain, the allowed decibels are different during different time periods.
Right.
So after like 10 p.m. in residential areas, it is lessened. But there are provisions where you can exceed by a certain amount those decibel readings for short periods of time, like no more than 15 minutes at a time, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I just know, like, having run an Airbnb, lots of people have different ideas about what loud is, depending on their perspective. And so I don't know, it might be better to be a little more descriptive than loud. So that's one thought for everybody to consider. Maybe just compliance with the county noise ordinance is mandatory or something like that. And then campfires and designated fire rings, probably fine.
You have nothing else?
I have nothing else.
Okay. Commissioner Wiedemann, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Babini?
None from me.
Okay. Commissioner Jones, are you making a recommendation that we modify the conditions to address your noise concern?
I just know that, like, between neighbors, noise with Airbnbs is the biggest issue. So having a really good, solid condition that could then live on in future Airbnb applications or vacation rental applications would be good. So it might be worth it to, I would prefer saying no amplified music after 9 p.m. would be preferred. And I think no amplified noise, I'm sorry, not just music, but any kind of amplification.
I mean, if we're trying to use a more objective standard, would we not want to use something? I imagine the county noise ordinance has, a certain decibel level at a certain distance as the standard.
It's like at the property line, there's a certain decibel noise allowed.
Right.
But translating that to a neighbor or to a guest that comes kind of doesn't help.
Yeah.
So being more descriptive about what's permissible with Airbnbs, I think, would be helpful, maybe to reduce some of the conflict. I don't know.
If I may, through the chair, I brought up the Appendix C, exterior noise limit standards, which is what's codified in Division 1, if that helps kind of set some discussion guidelines for limits.
It's also in the hearing packet as well, if you want.
Yeah, so again, we're back at the same issue that's kind of meeting a guest who's coming.
Well, I don't know how many guests are going to read the conditions of this permit either, but.
Yeah, but people can copy them and put them on the wall, or the sections that matter.
Yep. Well, would the addition of no amplified, if we struck out loud noises and we said loud noises including amplified music shall be limited to the hours of 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., would that meet your?
That would be fine. I would prefer 9 p.m., frankly.
We could put in this package that has to be posted in the house of the vacation rental.
That the noise limitation has to be
Yes,
posted.
yes. And the reason is, and one of the reasons is that you may not know what 40 decibel is or 50 decibel. I doubt it if anybody in this room really does.
I do.
But, well, that's great.
Can you give us 40 decibels?
Yeah, give us a 40.
40 decibels is basically talking.
Okay.
The sound of talking.
Okay, great. So
It's very quiet.
A simple thing to do for, let's say, that's user-friendly for the applicant and also, I think, meets the concerns of the commission, is to post this, that it has to be posted in the rental.
I would not prefer to post that because no one's going to know what that means. I would prefer to say no noise over 40 decibels, i.e. the sound of someone talking after 9 p.m. That would be clear to somebody.
As a question, I guess, it is within our purview to restrict beyond what the table says, because it does say 10 p.m., if we so choose to do so.
I think it's within our purview. It's a use permit. Part of a use
If I may,
permit
I
to
would say
make
yes,
for-
that is within your purview.
Yeah. A use permit, part of the goal of a use
Right.
permit is to eliminate conflict between neighboring uses. And so this would be one way of reducing conflict.
I could support that.
I definitely am in agreement with Commissioner Wiedemann. I don't think we should post the whole thing because there's so many different zonings on there. I don't think a renter would know which one they would be in if we did. I think the single would be better.
I would support Commissioner Jones' request.
Okay, so maybe we could let me take a stab at rewording condition number 11. So the applicant shall post a notice in the house that indicates noises over 50 dBA, i.e. the sound of somebody speaking outside is not permissible outside the residence between the hours of 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. 10 p.m. and 10 a.m. This thing is even wrong. You guys are limiting noises in the middle of the day with
No. Loud noises are limited to those hours as it's written right now.
Oh, yeah. Kind of a bad way to write it. At any rate, I would like to limit the hours after 10 p.m. and to 10 a.m. Or even 8 a.m. is fine, but 8 to 9 might be. 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. would be quiet, normal hours, and 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. would be quiet hours.
7.
I think Deputy
10
County
to
Counsel
7,
would like
okay.
to chime in here.
Just Deputy, if we're not done yet, but Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, I was trying to type down what Commissioner Jones said. We just
And I
might
went too fast.
appreciate a 5 to 10 minute break to try and draft something, put it on the screen, and make sure it's understandable.
Right.
And any step recommendations we could make as we're thinking about it, we could give to the commission as well.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Do you feel like you have clear direction from the commission on the amendment? Or do you want to hear more clarification before we give you a 5-minute break?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, I think the hour issue, in terms of which hours we're talking about, I'm not sure I've heard a consensus on that. I'd note, we have certain hours stated that were, in this Appendix C, that might be useful to keep within that. I think the commission could be more restrictive, but if so, then I think we want to word the condition clearly and not be referring or trying to post those things as well. And then I think we might try and draft the condition to be the requirement and then state that the owner has to post noise limitations inside the unit.
So just so you know, 50 dBA is as loud as a quiet conversation, a quiet suburb, a quiet office, or a quiet refrigerator. It's
Quiet.
very quiet.
Do we have consensus? Commissioner Jones, would you like to state your desired hours for this quiet period?
I think it's fine for noise to start at 8 a.m. So basically 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. would be reasonable hours, I think, so the neighbors aren't annoyed.
I agree with that, solely because a lot of checkout times for people are before 10 a.m.
Right.
And I think unloading, packing up their cars, everything would be difficult if they were very quietly having to leave the premises.
We have 10 to 8. Is that the, or 9 to
10 p.m. to 8.
Okay. I can. Oh. Okay. 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 Well, why don't we give staff a few minutes to work on this? When we come back, Mr. Giles, if you're listening out there in the Zoom world, we'll hear from you after we get the recommendation from staff and working. Okay. So we will reconvene at 10:46. Is 5 minutes enough? 10:51. We will reconvene. Okay. You're welcome.
Website, mendoready.org. Do it today.
If you want your family to be as resilient as possible, it's important to take some time today and visit mendoready.org, where you can look up your pre-established evacuation zones on our current emergencies map. You can also find important tools to help maintain your situational awareness, such as the Alert California wildfire cameras and the Caltrans road conditions cameras. We hope you'll take some time today to prepare so that your family can be Mendo ready. Thank you.
Personally, I think everybody could benefit from the home visiting programs.
I think that as a parent now, I'm grateful for support more than I was before.
I filled out that form not knowing what I was doing. I am very, very grateful that I did it because it's really helping me a lot.
Bueno, creo que por mi parte esperaba algo totalmente diferente, como un programa más frío, por decir algo, no tan cercano a la familia. Y a través del programa nos hemos dado cuenta que también pasa a ser una familia con nosotros porque nos apoya en los momentos difíciles o cuando nos hemos visto en dificultades.
Well, I was a new mom and I had no experience taking care of a newborn.
There isn't like a book on how to raise a kid.
We come from like a lot of family history of, drugs, violence, alcoholism, so we didn't want our daughter to experience any of that.
The thought that a parent was supposed to be loving, nurturing, supposed to be there for their kid, provide food, shelter, joy, and going in, becoming a parent for her, I had no clue how to provide that.
¿Cómo pensar educarla? Ajá. Cómo educar a un hijo porque pues nosotros nunca, es la primera vez que íbamos a ser padres.
What I think parents should know about home visiting is that you can learn a lot of new things and tips and tricks, how to take care of the baby and what to do, and if you're, stuck in a routine and everything being monotonous, like they give you new resources and new tools how to handle parenthood.
It was nice to have them kind of guiding me, even though I was not a first-time mom. I felt like a first-time mom.
It totally blew my mind over time. So much information that I had no idea about. She was straightforward when, teaching me this stuff and answered any of my questions. It's just a really positive experience.
What I think that parents could benefit with the program is just having someone here for you, especially for first-time parents. It can be very isolating and it can be very lonely, and having the home visitor changes that, and it feels very good.
For me, having a home visitor is like having a second mom there.
A lot has changed. I'm definitely more knowledgeable taking care of her, and I know that anytime I need advice or help from somebody, I can just call her.
It's just that little positive nudge to, hey, I'm noticing something, let's find a way how to change it. And she's like, you know what, Amanda, let's pick you up, dust you off, and let's go over to, see about either getting your driver's license or seeing about, going to college, see if we can start something for you.
It's totally worth it. Like, even if you're on the fence at first, you don't feel like having a stranger coming in your house and teaching you about your little one, do it anyway. You get the help that you need. You get professional advice on things you may not know about your child. The fact that the program has no fees or anything, it's all totally free, is fantastic.
Yo creo que si conozco a alguien que está próxima a ser mamá, lo primero que haría sería recomendarle el programa, porque te entrega mucho apoyo, mucha información y más que nada como apoyo emocional, una guía, te da una visión diferente de cómo es ser papá aquí, quizás en este país.
Sí, pues es un bonito programa, porque pues es buena persona la señora y los ha atendido muy bien.
Pensé que nada más iba a ser un programa de orientación quizás para los nuevos padres, pero creo que nos llevamos una linda sorpresa porque Gaby es una persona muy cercana a nosotros, es como parte de nuestra familia, siempre ha estado dispuesta a ayudarnos y a escucharnos con nuestras dudas sobre la paternidad, y en nuestro caso, que estamos solos en este país, ha sido como de mucha ayuda.
Es un gran apoyo para nuevos padres y Más aún si están en nuestra situación, que somos extranjeros, que nuestra familia y amigos, como dice Carla, están en otro país, lejos. Entonces sí, viene muy bien el programa para apoyarse tanto emocional y como anímicamente y bueno, en varios aspectos del programa que nos ayuda a seguir adelante con esta nueva aventura.
Te ayuda como a ver los distintos recursos que tiene la comunidad para nuevos papás, entonces creo que es de gran ayuda.
No queda mucho que agregar, pero lo veo de la misma forma.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Welcome back, everybody. Let's see. Should we hear from the applicant first, I think, and then we... Okay. Mr. Childs, I believe, on the line now.
Yeah, I just got in. Can you guys hear me?
We heard a little
Hello?
bit. Sorry, it's clipping a little bit. Can you try again? Just speak.
Yep. Sorry.
Okay.
I am here. Can you hear me? I am here.
We have you now. Go ahead.
Okay. I am curious. I was informed that when I applied for this short-term rental, that it was an either or, that you guys had set some kind of there wasn't really a code to refer to, but the precedence that had been set was 180 days I could rent it out for, or that I needed to use the mother-in-law or one of the residences as a permanent rental. Is that clear? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, your question is clear.
Okay. Yeah,
Well-
so I'm curious if that is, well, first of all, obviously I think that sucks because it is lack of revenue that I can bring in, and obviously a lack of revenue that you guys get to see through taxes. So I would prefer to not have limitations on my property if possible. And if there isn't a code that you have to refer to that works for this situation, then I'm not sure why we're getting pigeonholed or stuck in this 180 days thing. It seems arbitrary to me, but I mean, if you have a response, I'd love to hear it before we move on.
Okay. Staff, would you like to respond to that question from the applicant?
Yeah, that was kind of addressed a little bit earlier with Commissioner Jones's question, that the use of both structures for short-term rentals is not really considered to be in line with the property as residential use, because accessory uses are intended to be subordinate to a primary residential use.
And as I understand,
Subordinate to
go ahead, Mr.
So go ahead. Well, subordinate to a primary residential use. I mean, that doesn't. That's it's kind of like beating around the bush, isn't it? I don't understand what impact is going to change by having both rented out to a vacation renter or both rented out to permanent. I mean, I'm not understanding how the impact is just because it wasn't designed originally because it's a residence to be supporting the use case that it's going to get. Doesn't to me seem like we need to keep it from having a different use case. I don't know. They're two houses, they should be used. Why does it matter whether one's permanent or one is for vacation rental?
And if I may respond through the chair. So my name is Julia Krog. I'm Planning and Building Services Director. So the reason that staff had reached out to you while we were preparing the staff report for this application was because we did not believe as staff that we could recommend approval of the renting of both units, because the requirements under which this application is processed, which is an accessory use regulation, requires that we have to find that the accessory use is incidental and subordinate to the primary use of the property. And where you would be renting out both units on a short-term basis, that becomes more of the primary use of the site and is not incidental to the long-term single-family residential use which the zoning district is intended to have.
But the 180 days negates that. It's fine to do 180, but it's not. That seems an arbitrary number. I don't understand where you came up with that number.
And if I may, that has been a condition that has been added to other permits where someone may have sought to have rented the only dwelling on a property. And again, that's in an effort to ensure that that use remains incidental and subordinate to the primary use of the site. So where you may be utilizing it for less than half of any one calendar year, treating that use as as incidental and subordinate to the primary use. So it's not written into the code 180 days. That has been a condition of approval that has been adopted on numerous other short-term rental applications.
Okay. So since it was designed to be a single family home, it's got to stay a single family home for rent or for whatever purpose. I can't use it commercially, in other words, basically. The design was originally just to make it okay. Whatever. It is what it is. Obviously you guys have your minds made up. I'm concerned that because of the layout of the property that my short-term renters are not going to be happy with the permanent renter next door. I'm wondering if it's possible to do an either or, especially since half this year is third of the year is already gone. I mean, in terms of getting it started. So I'm curious, is this like, once it's set in stone, it's set in stone, and I have to do either 180 days or I have to do one rental, or is there a way to do an either or based on, my economic situation?
If I may, Mr. Childs, I think, again, this is Julia Krog. I think that if you wish to change and have both units be rented either in an alternating pattern, that is not what we have prepared staff recommendations for the Planning Commission for today. That would necessitate that we ask that this item be continued to allow us to conduct an analysis related to what you are requesting.
Right, more time, a lot more money, and I can just lose my house because my mortgage can't get paid. I got you. So let's just do what's on the agenda, and I'll go ahead and take it up what you want to take it, and it is what it is. Either I get approved or I don't. Sounds like I'm completely pigeonholed into what you guys have decided are the rules. I either sell the house or I get this approved and potentially don't have to sell the house. That's where I'm at. Beyond frustrated, but it's your guys' call. I'm at your mercy.
Are you finished, Mr. Childs?
Yeah,
okay.
Nothing else to say.
All right.
We have a draft red line resolution based upon the commission's comments from earlier, if you'd like to review that on the screen.
Please.
All right, so the couple of draft changes we made were to condition 11, rewriting condition 11 to read, external noises associated with the short-term rental shall not exceed 50 dBA between the hours of 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. I believe that was the numbers that we'd captured in commission direction.
Yeah, I feel like you missed a bit of it. So if you could add to that, a notice shall be posted inside the rental.
Oh, there's more.
Oh, okay.
We have also added condition number 23. These conditions of approval shall be posted within the short-term rental in a visible location.
And Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, I think we added the entire conditions of approval. Just calling out the noise is one thing. There are other very relevant conditions of approval that I think I wouldn't want to be thinking they would be ignored. I would just rather include all of them so that the renter is aware of those.
Yeah, no one's going to read it. Sorry, hate to be like a pragmatist, but someone isn't going to read all that. So I think I recognize what you're trying to do, but knowing run an Airbnb, knowing what people are like, they hardly read it when it's like really big and bold in red letters right on the door. The only conditions that I think of approval that should be posted should be the ones that are relevant to occupancy by renters, which would be 11 and 12. You could maybe put 13 in there, but the rest of it is not really, I'm sorry, I'm looking through maybe 8.
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, I'd recommend 7, 8, 10, 11, 12.
That makes sense. I agree.
All right. We have a approved list of conditions.
Can I just make
Please,
one other comment? And then on condition number 11, if you could define what 50 dBA is in the condition so that when it gets posted, it's defined for guests?
You'd have like a parentheses after 50 dBA and say the sound of
a quiet refrigerator or people talking at normal tones, normal voice levels. In other words, screaming out your window in a drunken howl would not comply.
Doesn't count.
Staff would welcome some guidance on how to
How about
define
this, after that parentheses, the sound of normal
conversation.
Normal conversation.
Sound level of normal.
All right. Does that look good to you, Commissioner Jones?
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate everybody.
Commissioner Wiedemann?
I had one question. The applicant was referring to the 180 days. How did you, what was he referring to there?
So there is no code requirement or restriction that says a unit cannot be rented for more than 180 days. When staff is having conversations with applicants for short-term rentals, we typically discuss that particular number of 180 days because of the requirements to find that the use for a short-term rental is incidental and subordinate to a primary residential use at the site. So that has typically been the number. It is less than half of a calendar year.
I see. I just got a little confused in.
And that's not in these special conditions, correct? Because you
That is
have
not.
one residential unit that's occupied full-time, not as a guest.
That is
accommodation.
correct.
And I would just point out to the applicant, if you're still online, that you're lucky we're considering the larger unit as the one for the guest, because theoretically, the Planning Commission could argue that actually the smaller unit should be the one for the guest. And I'd also recommend that you not be quite so belligerent when you call up the Planning Commission, because you can alienate us. Thank you.
I get it. I've been put in between a rock and a hard place. I mean, as you know, the economic situation around here isn't as good as it used to be, and a lot of people are struggling. It's at the point where I either lose the home or I do something. I can't afford the mortgage.
Yeah, I don't think we're not taking public testimony anymore. And as far as it goes,
my bad.
the high cost of living has to do with a lot of vacation rentals, meaning people can't rent homes.
I don't think that's the issue, but that may be your
I'm
opinion.
going to call point of order and stop the discussion between the applicant and the commission at this point, because we're not in that section.
Well, he should be muted.
Yeah, okay. All right, we have a updated list of conditions. Is there any further discussion from the commission? Any final comments from staff?
No.
Okay, great. Mr. Childs, I'm going to give you one more chance if you've got any final comments.
I'm just trying to survive and keep from losing the house my kids were born in. That's all. It's just it's a tough situation to be in. I apologize for my belligerence, but I am looking at any option to continue to maintain the home and not lose it. It's frustrating. That's where my belligerence comes from. It's very frustrating, but I apologize. Is what it is.
All right, thank you very much. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing at this point. The matter is now before the Public Commission. Public comment is no longer permitted. Any further discussion? If not, I'll invite a motion. Rabini, you want to rock it? All right. Hold on a second. Commissioner Jones, since this is in your district, would you like to make the motion?
Oh, sure.
All right.
So I'll just do a little preamble here and note that this person seems a little bit belligerent about operating the use as conditioned, and I could be vindictive and not recommend approval, but I'm not going to do that. I am going to recommend approval, but just note to the applicant that all a neighbor has to do is complain about both units being rented out as vacation rentals, and you will lose this use permit. So I would highly recommend that you don't do that. And with that, I would recommend that the Planning Commission approve use permit U-2023-0011, Rubens Childs, subject to all the conditions of approval. based on the findings in the staff report and the resolution.
Deputy County Council Matthew Kudrowski, as amended at today's hearing.
Oh, yes, as amended at today's hearing. Sorry.
Thanks for keeping us on.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Babini,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiedemann,
Yes.
Chair Pollan.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on. Agenda item number 7, matters from staff. Any matters from staff today?
No matters from staff today.
Thank you. Agenda item number 8, matters from the commission. Any matters from commissioners?
Well, if Bernie wins, you'll still be my commissioner.
Good.
All
That's
right.
good.
Great. Well then, agenda item 9, adjournment. I'll invite a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks everybody.
Road.